After 2 years of doing YouTube and much deliberation, I finally decided to make a Ko-fi. Coffee? Ko-fi. Kofef, whatever. You know what I mean. I know my upload schedule is spotty, but having some kind of income while I'm at school would be very helpful. If you have $1 to throw or you're feeling generous, click the link down in the description. There should be some mini rewards too by the time this video is up. Thank you guys for watching, love the support, and on to the video. Catch you guys next time when we finally get to address the plain-size elephant in the room. Take care, y'all. Yeah, it's been a while, huh? What's up guys, Flux here, and after a long break, it's finally time to talk about Total Drama. The sequel to the sequel to the sequel, baby. Now I actually have an excuse this time. Initially I was gonna wait for the new seasons to drop and make a video on those first, but since whoever's in charge of Total Drama hates America, like how is the second season already out before the first season airs in America? All the seasons are about to get taken off on Netflix before the new show airs. I'm about to get really mad. I decided to do the next best thing and cycle back to World Tour. But while I was writing the script for that video, I found myself at a crossroads yet again. Total Drama World Tour is arguably the most loved season in the fanbase, so there's not much I could add in terms of praise. But if I made a video trying to talk about some of the lower points, I already know that there'd be a handful of people who think I hate the series.
I am a huge fan. Seriously, I'm just a fan.
So, to balance out the review and make it more interesting, I decided that instead of just reviewing World Tour, let's see how it compares against the other worldwide season of the show, the Ridonculous race. We're going to look at the highs and lows of both seasons, and then at the end, I'll rank what each season does best, and finally determine what edition of Total Drama has the crown. Even though Ridonculous race is technically a spinoff, and I'm only talking about 2 seasons of the show. Whatever. With all the pleasantries out the way, I'm Flux guys, and let's start our retrospective with... Sheesh, Total Drama World Tour. What can I say that hasn't already been said about this highly regarded season? Heck, even that sentence sounds cliche. It was produced at the same time as Action, assumedly, since right as TDA ended, World Tour was right on its heels. World Tour saw the series jump from its OG island scenery to the chill film lot, and now its most chaotic location, the entire world. I could gush on and on about all the songs and about how good the drama is in this season, and of course the fantastic dynamic between Heather and Alejandro. But I want to put nostalgia aside and put a critical eye to World Tour because after many rewatches, some critiques definitely slipped through the cracks. Let's start off with the characters. Now I know what you're thinking. What could you possibly have bad to say about the characters? Heather carried the entire season. Well, Heather Stan 1228, we have to consider that there are multiple other characters besides the main 2 that stole the show. Additionally, just like Island, they nerfed a lot of those characters to make Alejandro a stronger villain. Not necessarily nerfs like Mal level nerfs, but more so put on the sideline. People both in universe and in fandom attribute a lot of eliminations to be caused by Alejandro, but most of them seem pretty circumstantial. Of the characters that explicitly blamed Al for their departure, only 2 of those were really Alejandro's doing. Harold threw the game for Lashana with little to no convincing. Noah got eliminated because of Chris playing favorites and fudging the rules. Lashana lost because I don't really know. Al flirts with her and she just beats up Heather because of confidence, I guess.
Get that bag and go off, queen.
And Bridget got what she deserved because we don't fuck with cheaters. Jeff should have called up Joey Greco because my girl should not have gotten away with what she did on live TV.
Doing my girl.
I'll give Alejandro mind gaming Courtney, sabotaging DJ, and using his common sense to get votes against Tyler and Owen. But overall, he just didn't do as much snake work as people claim. That being said, he's still in my top 3 Total Drama characters of all time. Despite my disregard for his plays in the season, Alejandro is one of the series' most balanced and dangerous antagonists. He's a jack of all trades due to growing up in a competitive family, so it makes sense that he's used to manipulating others to get what he wants. Side note, Flux Guys does not condone manipulating others for personal gain. And unlike Heather, he actually did his scheming in silence. As much as I love Island, watching scenes where she should have been eliminated but got saved by poor writing was so obnoxious. First, there was a time where they voted out Justin instead of Heather after she read Gwen's diary. Then there was a time that DJ got eliminated for running away or whatever. Then there was a time where they voted off Izzy because she's crazy or something. Then there was a time where they voted off Jeff because he's too nice? Like, what? And don't even get me started on Lashana. Point is, Al was a lot more behind the scenes than Heather, and his scheming was more so dropping little seeds instead of making grand gestures that would have got him found out. In a show where your victory depends on what others think of you, you'd think it makes sense to, oh, I don't know, not be maliciously evil right in plain sight. Then of course there's Heather. There's not much I can joke about here. It's seriously the best character arc in the series. After being a clear-cut villain in Island and having her bald off-season run in action, World Tour brings her back as the good guy of sorts, being underhanded and cunning enough to know that she had to be the one to see through Alejandro's superficial charm. It's a slow burn of a relationship that gives us some of the most entertaining drama that Total Drama has to offer. Watching Al and Heather play each other while falling for each other at the same time is hella entertaining. Piggybacking off how I appreciate Al being sneaky with his plans, I love how naturally Heather makes it to the finals after the events of Island in action. Seeing her evade elimination after elimination for basically no reason in Island always bugged me. In World Tour, she almost gets voted off, but gets saved by a reward challenge. And by the second half of the season, all the attention on her team gets diverted to the trio who shall not be named just yet. Heather doesn't exactly have allies, but between Cody and Sierra, Alejandro trying to work Owen, and the trio who again shall not be named, her trip from the merge to the finals was barely noticeable. It's not like she wasn't trying to win challenges, but she understood that she wasn't the target that she was before.
I have never felt so safe. Thanks, Gwen.
It makes her champion status all the more memorable when she realizes that she's supposed to be the good guy of the season, the only one witty enough to take down this empire-sized threat. Heather's barely suppressed her catty attitude or conniving plots, but by the finale you really want to see her beat Alejandro and finally catch a break. I always thought it was interesting how this was the first season where the main antagonist made it to the finale, and they handled it pretty well. World Tour has one of the better alternative endings in my opinion. While I don't like what they did to Ezekiel, more on that later, having Heather's crush on Alejandro be her downfall is very on brand, especially considering all the back and forth flirting that threw both contenders off their games. As for the rest of the characters, these three shined, and the less said about Team Victory the better. I know that might seem harsh to say, but it seriously sucks that they wrote off the entire team, especially since this season introduced the 3-team system just for one of the teams to be gone before the first half anyway. I get the whole eliminate the players with no real arcs to make room for the real arcs thing. This was the first season where Izzy didn't come back, so it feels like they were trying to make room for more essential characters. It just so happened that they chose all the characters who should have had a chance 2 seasons prior. It doesn't help that 3 of the 6 members have had really unsatisfying eliminations in both Island and Action. And this, as far as we know, is the last season we'll ever get to see these characters compete in, so World Tour has a lot of half-finished plot lines. All-Stars could have been a redemption arc, but we all saw how that turned out. The character interactions in this season are really good, but god does it take a while for things to start heating up. Up until episode 13, the only main points are Cody trying to avoid Sierra, Alejandro and Heather eyeing each other up, and Noah's hilarious one-liners. But after Noah's wrongful elimination in London, the show finally gets to start. There's not just exclusively inter-team conflict, Team Amazon and Team Chris is really hot or directly clashing against each other. Alejandro's mind games with Heather become more apparent, Duncan tries working Owen because he's not fooled by Alejandro's charm. Gwen and Duncan are doing things. We'll get to that in a second, trust me. It has me really torn about canning Team Victory because while I'm upset that they were out of the door before the halfway point, the second half of World Tour is damn near perfect. Perfect in the sense of constantly brewing drama and being entertaining to watch, not really in the writing sense. The only other interaction that has something worth talking about are Sierra and Cody. Now I know the consensus on these two is mixed, but for me personally, after watching the season a million times, I'm rather indifferent to their scenes. I guess Cody having Sierra is revenge for him trying to creep on Gwen back in season 1, but the way they handle Sierra's character is so foul. In the first couple of episodes, Sierra seemed like a threat. She wasn't fazed by Alejandro because he's never been on the show, and she was very aware of how Heather was trying to play her early on. But after that,
You, Cody, take Sierra to be your wife forever and ever and ever!
Straight craziness. They don't capitalize on the strengths she has. Being introduced to the show super late, knowing everything about the cast, not falling for Alejandro, being able to view the game in an external sense as a fan. Cody's not much better either. He was cool enough in Island, but they made his character so intertwined with Sierra, who has no character. So both in-universe and writing-wise, Cody is nothing without her. Bro was in the final 3 and literally gave up on $1 million. Season 1 Cody would never. It's nice that an underdog made it to the finals. I mean, it's the same reason Heather made it, the same reason Beth got there last season, the same reason Noah could have made it this season, but it doesn't feel like he really earns it. He wins like 2 challenges for his team, but for the most part, he's either saying nothing, doing nothing, or getting incapacitated by Sierra. When it comes to eliminations, the suspense that the show initially dramatized is very dead. A couple of eliminations were pretty shocking, but mainly out of confusion and not clever writing. The only note I had for this section was the wasted opportunity that was bringing Blanley back in the cast instead of literally anyone else. The second chance challenge was exactly what this season needed. Sort of how when Eva came back in season 1 and swore vengeance on her teammates, or more specifically just Bridget for some reason.
I'm really mad!
They could have brought back someone Alejandro messed with to spice up the drama. Maybe Noah or Lashana or hell, Beth. I would have let Beth win the challenge if it meant that somebody with some kind of personality would come back to the cast. But just like Eva, they can her after an episode. Sorry, 2 episodes. Way to patch your stats. And while we're on the topic, that whole chef cheating again thing was so dumb to me. Like, Blanley is already a useless character, why not rehash an old terrible plotline while we're at it?
I have no idea what I'm doing, but I know I'm doing it really, really well.
The pacing in World Tour is better than action, but there's still a few episodes that feel particularly slow. Even though pretty much every episode has its entertaining moments, there are a couple of challenges that feel very uneventful. The Aftermath shows feel a bit more essential. They have a couple events and challenges that directly affect the game, but more often than not, I find myself skipping these episodes upon rewatch. The first couple of episodes of Total Drama usually feel slow due to having so many characters, but seriously, it feels like no one's taking the game seriously until the final 5. After the whole, hold up, still not ready to talk about it. The final 4 here are top 3 in the series. Most of that is being carried by Heather and Al, but Cody and Sierra have some nice scenes as well. The last 4 episodes feel like the stakes are finally on. No more relationship drama, no more bogus eliminations, just a race to the million. The challenges are okay, though some of them feel fairly lazy in comparison to Ridonculous race. I never noticed this before until someone pointed it out to me, but a lot of World Tour's challenges are just races. Race through a tundra, race through the Amazon, race through the very empty Australia. Hey, maybe they should have called this season Total Drama World Race, if you know what I'm saying. The representation of each location ranges drastically as well. Places like Area 51 in China have some great gags and feel like unique landmarks, while the Yukon and Sweden challenges feel very interchangeable and not central to either country. The season is definitely more about the drama than the places where the drama is happening. Even compared to the previous 2 seasons, World Tour's challenges feel like a vignette of scenes to tell jokes as opposed to one connected sequence. And while this isn't a terrible thing, I think World Tour is one of the funnier seasons overall. It doesn't really fare well for the memorability of the different locations. And furthermore, Okay, fine, let's talk about it. Jeez, I was trying to actually enjoy the review. If I could sum up this train wreck's biggest problem, it's a lack of communication. And not just to the audience, but in-universe as well. I understand that the show is supposed to be full of drama, but the sequence of events of these 2 relationships overlapping makes no sense. They never make it clear when Gwen and Duncan began or when Courtney and Duncan ended, or started for that matter. Gwen and Duncan barely interacted throughout Island and were friendly in action, but not anywhere near as close as Duncan and Courtney got. The only thing we get as a teaser to this terrible romance is a celebrity manhunt special. Heather making fun of Gwen and jokingly saying she likes Duncan.
I wish Duncan were here so I could kiss him, even though I'm way too scared to tell him how much I love him, because I'm too cool.
And Gwen admitting, rather cringely I might add, how she thinks Duncan is hot.
He is the best thing that ever happened to her. I mean, look at the guy, he's hot. I mean, he's okay for her.
Wanna throw some bakas in there too while you're at it, senpai? This could be a result of writing 2 seasons at once and forgetting minor details or having to cut them for time, but this lack of information really cost World Tour in the writing department. There's no build up to Duncan, it just sort of happens out of nowhere. Duncan seemingly gets back with Courtney at the end of action, I guess that's what this angry kiss signifies, and then cheats on her in World Tour. No explanation, no prompting, and the show treats it as if we were supposed to see that coming. And what sucks is I would actually kinda like to see some conflict in Total Drama related to cheating. I think they could pull it off. The issue is they picked the worst trio to give this to. With how subdued Gwen is and her commitment to not drawing attention to herself aside from when she has an issue with something, it's not really in her character to cheat. Likewise, Courtney's type A personality would always clash with Duncan's brash exterior. And because opposites attract, the 2 would always come together like how they did in action. Don't get me wrong, I definitely believe that Duncan would be a cheater. But the reasons that they give for Duncan going to Gwen over Courtney is so minimal, like we need an actual reason by both parties as to why or how this relationship started. Duncan implies that he likes how basic Gwen's demands are as compared to how high maintenance Courtney is, that much is obvious. Gwen, on the other hand, says nothing. Besides commenting on their kiss, Gwen throughout the season has nothing to say about her relationship with Duncan, except how she feels terrible about it.
The moment I finally become friendish with Courtney, I kiss her boyfriend. I'm a horrible person.
Then how she doesn't feel terrible about it.
Duncan and Courtney were over before he and I started. You can't steal a boyfriend if the boy is free.
And how actually Duncan sucks.
Duncan. You know what's most uncool about him? How he's still obsessed with Courtney. That's so uncool, it burns.
What makes me the most upset is, well, this is all that these characters get to be. From World Tour, heck, from Action and beyond, Gwen purely exists to stir drama between Courtney and Duncan. In All-Stars, there is no chemistry. In fact, Gwen pretty much drops Duncan the first chance she gets. After Island, these three just exist to generate relationship drama, and that's it. All because these two have color palettes that complement each other. I know this is a teen romance, and teens are dumb, but the reasoning for the ship happening is non-existent. Because Total Drama Island got a bad case of sequelitis, this dynamic got rushed because shipping brings in views. That much is clear just based off how the network views shipping in the first place. All the loose ends got tied up in Island for the most part, so in order to not have a dead show, we ended up with this manufactured-ass love triangle. It's like the SETI of the Total Drama universe. The hilarity and utter insanity do not override the delightful interactions these three had before World Tour. Hell, the toxic back and forth Duncan and Courtney had in Action was somehow more fun to watch. That feels more age appropriate than this relationship built on lies and infidelity. I'll give this arc one pass because there's something that goes over a lot of people's heads when talking about Total Drama. This show is supposed to be a parody of reality. Parody! Exaggerated for humorous effect. So at the end of the day, they're dramatically hamming up how toxic and vile reality TV show relationships are. We're not supposed to like it, it's supposed to be like, hey, they do this stuff on real life and TV, isn't it so cringe and unbearable? And yeah guys, it is. It's not much of a commentary on it, as it is a gross representation of how the network thinks teen relationships play out, but I digress. The writing here is terrible, again, I'm not denying that. But if the network was trying to garner an audience to watch this train wreck, well then they definitely succeeded. We're all here years later talking about it, aren't we?
Talk about the songs.
So no thoughts about anything I just said,
When
huh?
are you gonna talk about the
Oh
songs?
Jesus Christ. On a lighter note, the songs of World Tour are solid for the most part. Yeah, out of everything in the season, this is the thing that I have no comment on. It's the only season with this gimmick, but surprisingly, the cast has some pretty good vocalists. The songs get better as the series goes on, with the beginning being a bit shaky.
Get us out of this place.
But overall, there were more songs that I enjoyed than ones I rolled my eyes at. Here's a quick tier list and a mandatory mention of Cody not singing, even though he's a good singer. Why does Cody not sing? The last thing I wanted to talk about is what they did with Zeke, this husk of a teenage boy. I like what they tried to do with him in the Action special, honestly trying to see him act like he's got swag is super on brand. But Jesus Christ dude, combined with the love triangle, this is where the series jumped the shark. Heather having her head shaved, fine and totally deserved. Sierra getting absolutely destroyed by the plane, kinda sad actually. Alejandro getting submerged in lava and Zeke transforming into a literal zombie and also getting launched into the volcano. In fact, this season gave way for the mutation gimmick on Dakota and the trauma chair for Scott in Revenge of the Island, both of which I thought were dramatic overkill. I think it's crazy how the OG cast thought it was rough for Heather to read Gwen's diary back in season 1, but no one acknowledges how inhumane or insane Zeke's conditions are.
It doesn't even look like him.
Yeah, well, it sure smells like him.
Honestly, I would have preferred for them to just bring back Eva or Jeff or keep Zeke on the sideline if the writers had nowhere to put him. Wrapping this segment up, yeah, World Tour is a bit of a mess in hindsight. Somehow, despite being made at the same time or around the same time as Action, this season feels like it disrespects a lot of the plots and storylines set up by that season. There are some very great highs set by the season, and if you think it's the best, I won't argue with you. I still think World Tour holds up the best out of the original trilogy. I mean, it's better than the 3 seasons that came after too, but that's not much of a compliment now, is it? But holy cow, man, there are some unresolved plot lines that leave me scratching my head. Before I get all stirred up though, let's switch gears to... Production for Ridonculous Race started in 2014, having the longest gap between seasons at the time. It's the first of 2 Total Drama spin-offs, the other being Dramarama. I would add a joke here, but the show's audience bleeding from 0.8 million to 0.16 million says enough. Total Drama had hit a series low for the fans with back-to-back blows from All Stars and Pacateo. I mean, how much more could we take? What's left to lose?
What more do you want from me?
Ridonculous Race completely flips Total Drama on its head, being a parody of a different reality show altogether, The Amazing Race. I like the approach the writers took with this season because it would have been so easy to just say, hey, people don't like when we ruin their favorites or make a new cast that's worse. How about we just take their favorites and put them on a different show? And it seemed like the writers were somewhat self-aware of that if the gag from the Celebrity Manhunt special was any indication.
My awesome athletic abilities went to waste on Total Drama Whoa! But on these other shows, I could really use my natural physical talents. Look.
Also, that frame of Tyler with a baby bump reminded me of that forbidden video, and now I'm very uncomfortable. But instead, since they were already using a different property, they changed everything up about the show. Ridonculous Race's only resemblance to the previous seasons of Total Drama is having a few of the same characters. So right off the bat, I have to give points for switching up the formula and making something new. They might have gone a bit too new with Dramarama, but I digress. The most significant and noticeable change is Dawn, the new host for Ridonculous Race. I've seen a lot of discourse between Dawn and Chris about who's a better host, but I never really saw it as a competition. I think the writers realized that they pushed Chris just a bit too far in previous seasons because with Dawn, they toned everything way down. Dawn's still narcissistic, as most TV hosts are, but you don't get the same sense of sadism and insanity that you do from Chris. Dawn still messes with the teams and the challenges are still very dangerous, but he doesn't interfere with the game and stays a neutral party. He's just here to crack a few jokes and explain all the new rules that came with the show. And after seasons upon seasons of host bias and interference, and yes, even season 1 had this issue, it's nice to have a season where the players can just play. Like I said, the season has an almost entirely new cast, and somehow despite completely bombing the last time they tried that, this cast is pretty solid. Two things I think that help are A, there's a couple VAs from previous seasons here, so it still has that feel of the old Total Drama even if none of the faces are the same. And B, they were able to expand the age range of the characters they can make. Since Total Drama started off at a summer camp, it pretty much required that everyone be teenagers. Despite how much the show plays around with age, like there's some pretty raunchy scenes in the first 3 seasons that could imply that they're late teens or young adults. But then again, summer camp does skew fairly young, which has even worse implications.
Not too shabby.
Police! Police! Police!
But it was clear that by Revenge of the Island, the writers were getting dried out in terms of having relatable teen stereotypes. Inversely, the age range of RR goes from kids like Junior to teens like Leonard to the elders like the tennis rivals and anyone in between. Because of this, the team dynamics get to have a lot more variety than before. It also, intentionally or not, raises the overall maturity level of the cast. The humor this time around feels a lot more slower paced with way more subtle jokes, which I love. Like World Tour is funny, but even though I watched Ridonculous Race a lot of times for this review, there are so many moments that make me smile. The back and forth jabs between the tennis rivals, the ice dancers' casual snarkiness, any scene with the vegans.
You want some dust on that?
Every team gets their chance to shine, even if they don't end up making it very far. The show does an amazing job of giving everyone screen time and makes it harder to predict who the easy outs are going to be. I mean, with the LARPers or Adversity Twins, it's a no-brainer that they're not going to win the million, but the latter half and the other teams get to have their own mini arcs. Just the overall theme of Ridonculous Race feels like a step up from Total Drama. Most of the teams get to develop and grow as people due to the competition. The bloggers have a dispute about their blog but make up and become stronger friends. As previously mentioned, the Adversity Twins make it pretty far for two people who are deathly allergic to everything. The daters? Redacted comments? The season takes a step back from the drama aspect of the series and focuses on making more grounded and relatable characters. Oh, but don't make a mistake, poor viewer. There still is drama. It doesn't pick up until halfway into the season, but the sense of urgency and competition lasts from the first day to the last. The first half of the show is dedicated to setting up every team, including giving some of the early boots their fair bit of screen time, while the second half experiments with pitting the remaining teams against or for each other. The cherry on top being the rivalry of the ice dancers and the police cadets. Oh boy. First of all, let me say that the Ice Dancers are by far the most entertaining team in the entire season. They try to mislead you into thinking they'll be a fair team, but after a string of losses, the duo return to cause as much mischief as possible, as Silver Streak athletes do. Surprisingly enough, even without cheating, Jock and Jose managed to make it to the top 3 for a good portion of the season. The pair aren't without their fair share of issues, Jose clearly being the more ambitious and chaotic one on the team. She has no issue with cheating and lying to the other teams if it means winning $1 million doubloons. Jacques is more subdued, being a bit more rational than his hot-headed partner, but still just as willing to win. When the two aren't at odds with the other teams, they're bickering with each other, which is just as hilarious. The main difference between the Ice Dancers and previous villains in their main seasons is that the show actually makes attempts to humanize them, despite them being the main antagonists. Not that cheating is okay, but having a sports-oriented team already preps the audience for the eventual cheating that'll happen when the money's on the line. Later in the series, we see that the team has some pretty obvious weaknesses, not just in the context of the show, but in reality. Jose has an extreme fear of closed spaces, while Jacques finds himself being crushed under the force of Jose's overachiever attitude. The back and forth that the two have in the penultimate episode about issues not even relating to the race make you feel for the two's disposition.
This is why I don't want to go pro with you anymore.
What?
There are things I want to do with my life that don't involve sequins and blade sharpeners. We'll talk about it later.
Obviously they're villains, but I appreciate how the show doesn't go the Mal or Scarlet route and just make them obnoxiously uncanny villains. They're just as determined to win like everyone else, just with a slight edge. And in the words of Kitty,
14 years of that? I almost feel sorry for him. Almost.
On the flip side, we have the police cadets. There's not much to add here, just a buddy cop duo, but they got hit with the Ghostbusters reboot ray and now they're girls.
Guys are much stronger and better at sports than girls are.
I know a lot of people have a problem with MacArthur and her brash nature, but it's a pretty common stereotype with cop duos in media, so I'm pretty jaded to it. Plus, she carries her team, so without that go-getter attitude, they wouldn't have made it as far as they did. Double plus, her wild actions are treated as such, and it's not like she's an utterly irredeemable character. I've noticed that the community seems to hate characters that make the show, well, what it is. All over YouTube, you can find people doing their own elimination orders, and there's always the same type of reworks. Heather was mean, so she needs to get booted first. Alejandro was playing with girls' hearts, so he can't stay either. Juliet? We haven't gotten that far in the reviews yet. Joe? Oh man, I'm never gonna get this video out on time. Y'all, you can't just write off all the characters who add suspense and drama to the show. Yes, you can make the case that Heather had some plays that should have gotten her kicked off way earlier in Island. Yes, Courtney was a bit annoying in action. Sure, Alejandro was manipulating people in World Tour. That's how the game is played, people. I guarantee you, if these characters didn't exist or the show kicked them out early, this would be the audience. Yeah, enough said. Now let's get back to Ridonculous Race. Getting back on topic, there's plenty of relatable and hilarious teams to root for. Every team had their moments, except for the LARPers. But my favorites have to be the Goths, the Ice Dancers, Father and Son, the Rockers, and the Vegans. I know the Vegans didn't make it very far, but god, they have so many funny ass clips.
Take hikes, not humps.
In terms of challenges, this is where the season ranks the best. Despite being 6 seasons deep and already doing a season where they had country-based challenges, Ridonculous Race proves to be the most elaborate with its research. Each episode had a unique feel due to the range of locations that the contestants go to. Even the simpler challenges are quite charming, whether they provide room for plenty of jokes like the drawing challenge in Paris, or if they prove to be comically harder than expected like the air guitar challenge in Finland. It gives more room for showing us different team dynamics. The only 2 teams that annoyed me were the LARPers and the Best Friends. Where do I even begin with these two? First of all...
Don't worry about this, bro. I got this. So the best friends, Carrie and Devin, are just that, best friends. But apparently, Carrie's plan from the very beginning was essentially for Devin to break up with his girlfriend and go out with her instead. That's not weird.
While this is already wild in itself, this plot somehow manages to drag on through 24 of the 26 episodes. From episodes 1 to 13, it's all cool beans. Carrie and Devin are getting through the challenges, casual flirting, common male obliviousness, it's all fun and games.
Until Devin's girlfriend dumps him over the phone. For his tennis instructor. Tennis instructor!
I thought that bit was kind of funny, but that's about the last of the enjoyment that this team has.
From episodes 14 to 18, Devin finds himself going through the 5 stages of grief. I got a kick out of hearing Devin say some morbidly depressing things like,
helplessness is a sign of depression.
Or
maybe they realized it's all meaningless because death is inevitable.
But for the most part, Devin is going insane. It sounds like he's going to be your default crash out.
Then finally, we get him back in episode 19, seemingly back to normal.
But now Carrie is the one with the issue, getting upset with Devin for doing what he's been doing for most of the season, which is taking control. It's a race for $1 million.
After some banter about not letting her do what she wants, the two switch challenges and blunder at that too.
In the midst of looking for Carrie, Devin point blank looks at the camera and does this.
What did I do? She's my best friend. She's like the most important person in my life. And I love her? Yeah, I do. I love Carrie.
Ooh, you stupid Devin! And as hammy and fake as that confession was, this happens at the same time.
Okay, this is a sign that I need to get over Devin.
It's obviously never gonna happen.
I've wasted so many years.
Maybe it is time I stand up for myself.
Why?
I don't know why either. Now, this isn't the only team with this issue. Noah and Emma have this same let's reach opposite conclusions about each other at the same time revelation as well. But with the best friends, it's so much more annoying because like Carrie never tells Devin that she likes him. She tries. I'll give her credit. She does try. While he's still in a relationship. Oh my god, this girl is crazy.
She never tells him that she's into him once when he's actually single. She just assumes that he just doesn't feel the same way. Which is the downfall of many total drama couples. You know, for a show about shipping, that seems to be the only story they can tell.
What's worse than watching two people who could easily be together falter due to having no type of communication? After the two flip roles, Devin becomes a Scott clone for a while. All the while pulling that classic, I almost said I loved you, but I did it, so now I just look insane. Honestly, I would have taken this before watching what we got instead.
Love ya. No, I don't.
At the same time, Carrie grows a friendship with Ryan from the Daters team, which for some reason gets Devin jealous, despite the fact that they're A, not dating, B, Ryan's girlfriend is literally in the race with him, and she gets pretty jealous about it too. And C, this is practically what Carrie had to deal with all season. In episode 23, Devin finally gets the news that Carrie likes him back. Obviously. Literally, all he has to say is I like you. But they delay it one more episode just to kick them off in the same breath. Yeah, I don't like the best friends plotline.
It wouldn't have even been that bad if it didn't last this whole season. They could have had this little mini exchange, like how the vloggers had or how the stepbrothers had. Something in the background while like something cool is happening, not this dumbass relationship. This is one of the main three teams. This is what they chose to dedicate screen time to. It's not even entertaining. It's not cute anymore. What the hell is this script? No, it wasn't cute, period. It's just plain annoying.
And I wish that Total Drama would stop doing the same stereotype for their relationship drama because it was played out back in season 1 when Heather did it.
But are we gonna talk about the golf?
Hey, yo! Other than that, it was a solid season overall. And my one major problem was more of an annoyance than something that'll keep me from rewatching the show. It's funny, the locales are new and exciting, and the theming feels fresh and brand new. For a season that was supposed to revitalize the series after a dark period, it did exactly what it needed to do. There's not much to say about Ridonculous Race, it's just good. And after such a bad slump, thank God it was good. Now that we've properly reviewed both seasons, it's time to compare the two and see who did what better. We have 5 categories to rank: character/character interactions, eliminations, humor, challenges/locations, and overall enjoyment. Starting off with character interactions, this one's pretty easy. I'm gonna give it to Ridonculous Race. While I hold the OG cast close to my heart, the show did most of them so dirty in World Tour that I can't even bear to watch. Heather and Alejandro's arc is better than the other characters in Ridonculous Race, but just them alone isn't enough to carry the season. Eliminations. Now this might be a controversial take, but I'm gonna give it to World Tour. Yes, a lot of the eliminations are BS, but in terms of pure entertainment, I'd edge out World Tour. While I do like how the eliminations in RRR for the most part feel well timed, a lot of teams will be in the final bracket with a team who is clearly not done with their development yet, making it fairly obvious that it's going to be either a non-elimination round or the non-essential team is going to lose. Humor. This one is so close. Honestly, both seasons are incredibly funny in their own right, but I'll give this one to World Tour too. It's so neck and neck, like both seasons have their own unique way of telling jokes and they're both hilarious. Especially Ridonculous Race, like the level of amazing quotables are truly underrated. Challenges/location, yeah, easily Ridonculous Race, I don't even think that's a question. The fact that the season even reused some of the countries from World Tour and did them even better speaks for itself. The representation and broader range of cultural challenges is a peak that World Tour could never match. And finally, overall enjoyment. I don't know, I think this one's a tie. While there's several writing flaws in World Tour, I can't deny how those flaws make an unforgettable season with plenty of twists and turns. Additionally, while this isn't a bad thing, I will say that Ridonculous Race plays things very safe comparatively. It had the heavy task of bringing back morale, so it's not the season's fault, but it feels very safe. So even though it took a lot of L's with this experimentation, I have to give credit where credit is due to World Tour. I wouldn't mind watching either one of these seasons in modern day. So, final verdict. We've done the analysis for World Tour. We've done the analysis for Ridonculous Race. Which one is the better season? After much deliberation, I've finally found an answer. And it is... I don't know. I can't make you guys reach your own conclusions. Honestly, trying to rank these seasons is truly up to what you want to watch. If you want to see a season of total drama that writes off some of your faves but has a drama and joke-filled second wind, then watch World Tour. If you want a season that's not too crazy and just has some nice down-to-earth characters and cool locations, then watch Ridonculous Race. I think the two seasons balance each other out nicely, like the negatives in one season are fixed in the other. Except for maybe relationships, total drama being a shipping-oriented show has caused more harm than good. Honestly, after doing so much hating on total drama, there's not much I can say about the best additions in the series. But if you guys really want to know what my favorite between World Tour and Ridonculous Race are, I think that it probably is